Namaskar, Professor Nikhil Mariwala sir.
Namaskar, sir.
There are 68 participants are there already in the board. Yeah, I think they'll be joining now. Shall we start, Professor?
Yes, sir. I'm ready. You let me know, sir, when to start, sir.
Yeah. Before that, let me introduce you to the audience. Good afternoon to all of you. I am happy to introduce Dr. Nikhil Mariwala, HOD, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering Department, University Institute of Engineering and Technology, Kurukshetra University, Kurukshetra, Haryana. Dr. Nikhil Mariwala Sabka profile, I could see it is very, very fabulous and amazing profile. His BTech, MTech and PhD in Electronics and Communication discipline. He did his PhD from National Institute of Technology, NIT Kurukshetra, in the Department of Electronics and Communication. He has more than 19 years of teaching experience at a graduate and postgraduate level. More than 31 students have completed their MTech dissertation under his guidance and supervision. Has published more than 5 chapters in different international books. Has authored more than 10 books with Pearson, Wiley, etc. And has more than 35 publications to his credit in reputed international journals, that is SCI, SCIE, ESCI and Scopus, and 20 papers in international and national conferences, has filed 7 patents, out of which 5 patents have been granted with 1 in Indian and 4 in international level. He has also acted as organizing secretary for more than 5 international conferences and 1 national conference. Has delivered more than 45 invited talks, guest lectures in leading universities, colleges, pan-India, across India. He is having additional charge of training and placement officer. There is a great responsibility at UIET, Kurukshetra University, Kurukshetra, and heading the TNP cell for more than 11 years now. He is also a reviewer for many reputed journals such as International Journal of Communication Systems, Wiley, IEEE, Signal Processing Letters, International Journal of Management Technologies, Journal of Organization and End User Computing, Egyptian Informatics Journal, elsewhere, Instrumentation Engineering, International Journal of Interactive Communication Systems and Technologies, Current Journal of Applied Science and Technology, UK. Dr. Nikhil Mariwala has been awarded as the NPTEL Enthusiast for the year 2019-2020 by NPTEL IIT Madras. He has also been awarded the Career Guru of the Month award by Aspiring Minds. His areas of interest are software-defined radios, cognitive radios, soft computing, wireless communications, wireless sensor networks, fuzzy system design, and advanced microprocessors. So with this brief introduction, I welcome Dr. Nikhil Mariwala Saab for the session on blockchain technology in education sector. We are privileged and honored to have Professor Nikhil Mariwala Saab on our board. Saab, now over to you.
Sir, thank you very much, Dr. Sensvatuvelu, for inviting me over and introducing me to the people around, all the participants. So thank you very much to the college authorities for having me and inviting me for this particular session. Particularly ABBS College has taken a leap in organizing these FDP program. for in the pandemic time. So big congratulations to you, sir, and to the college authorities for ensuring that we people are learning in these tough situations also. So thank you very much, and a warm welcome to all the participants who have joined in. So I can see the number is increasing a lot. So that's great to see. So today, as sir said, that I'll be talking about on the blockchain technology, and then basically blockchain technology in education sector. So sir, I need to stop my video, and then only I'll be able to share the screen. Will that be okay, sir?
You can take over.
Sir, just let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yeah. Yes, sir. It is visible. I am able to see.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Right, sir. Thank you very much for that. So this particular talk would circle around the blockchain technology. I'll be talking about what blockchain technology is, and then how effectively we can utilize this technology in the education sector. So this is what we will be looking into today. So this slide basically talks about the person who's calling for a fintech bubble, domain of fraudsters and crypto culture, nothing to do with education, Bitcoin hype, right? Governments are making this illegal. Let's wait for the future. So these are some of the things that we normally hear about blockchain, right? So whenever we talk about this, the only term that comes to our mind is a cryptocurrency called as Bitcoin, right? So we have already seen that this is the one that is referred normally to the technology of blockchain itself, right? So if you analyze these things, that it is a bubble technology, or it is a technology of gray market or fraudsters who don't want to transact in the government currencies, they want to hide the things, right? And this particular thing in general is that it has nothing to do with education. I'll just highlight this, right? So governments are making, yes, governments are definitely making this illegal many folds because they are not being benefited out of it, right? And Bitcoin definitely is a big hype, so it will go crashing down. People are investing usually just because they want to highlight the gray structure, right? And the other things. In any case, we are talking about a technology which is not that certain to everybody, right? So that is why this hand is falling up, right? So today, what we'll do is we'll try and answer these things. So these are two pictures that I've taken from the blockchain technology from the EU side, right? So you can have a look over these 2 points that in 2016 and in 2018. These are 2 years in which the blockchain technology of the European Commission strategists were talking about. So they were holding conferences on blockchain for social good and the different blockchain technology. This web page is available on their website. You can definitely have a look in the news column, right? I've taken it from the news itself. So European Commission strategy in digital single market, right? So they were talking about how European institutions in particularly are using this particular technology of blockchain for the distributed ledger technologies, or DLT, right? And this has brought about sustainable structures in their institutions itself. And European Commission aims to develop what? It aims to develop a common approach for blockchain technology in all EU, that is the European Union, right? So EU Blockchain Observatory Forum is the one that they have formed out, and they are using it. And this is the this slide talks about that the Commission has just launched an EU blockchain. So those who are looking forward for literature on this particular aspect and how blockchain can be utilized effectively in different forms must definitely visit this page, right? So European Commission, this is the news that they have launched EU Blockchain Observatory and Forum, right? So we people are way behind in that case. Why I have so why I talk about this is that we are not even thinking about how we are are going to use it, right? Forget about the implementation in different fields. So this particularly shows that the governments are not that much interested in launching or in using this particular term of blockchain into their uh, systems, or they're not ready to incorporate this particular aspect. Though we have just heard, if you are aware, that government of India is launching a new cryptocurrency for rupee, right? But I'm not that sure when it will be launched. But yes, we are thinking about, the government has started thinking about the virtual currencies, etc. So this particular forum, called as the Blockchain Observatory, is trying to highlight key developments of the blockchain technology and promoting it in the European Union to a particular extent, especially in the sector of education, right? So because this talk relates to the education sector, so that is why I just used this particular website. And this is the third news that I would like to talk about, but though this is an older one, but yes, the Guardian is talking about blockchain so much bigger than Bitcoin, right? So this is an article that everybody should read. So the first few questions will be answered reading this article itself. So they have talked about that you start the blockchain concept from I'll write it here, voting. So this is the basic right that every individual gets in any country that they belong to, right? So you can use blockchain for voting. You can use blockchain in healthcare. You can use blockchain not only in healthcare but effective monitoring of the healthcare systems, right? You can use blockchain in education sector, which will definitely change how we people are studying and how we people are talking about. So they have discussed a lot of areas where even energy production and other things, right? So how the blockchain technology will actually be a part of our lives in coming few years. This is what this particular article is stressing upon. So the Guardian editor has actually published this. You can have a look over with this name, right? So blockchain so much bigger than a Bitcoin, right? So because we in this particular slide, if you remember, I just told you that Bitcoin hype. Blockchain means Bitcoin, right? So it is not that case, right? So we want to come out of that particular thing and talk about how blockchain concepts can be utilized. So there is a definition structure that we need to understand this new technology, which is based on this term called as trust. It is not the gray market only, right? That is using blockchain. It is not only the gray market. I hope you understand what I'm trying to mean by gray market, or the other markets which are not running officially, right? It is not only that. The basic outline structure of blockchain technology is trust. So what I mentioned here in this slide is that this is a new technology which is redefining the way we transact. Yes, definitely, it is redefining it, right? If that sounds incredibly far-reaching, that is because it is actually changing the way we will transact in next coming years, right? And blockchain has the potential to change the way we buy or sell, interact with government, verify the authenticity of everything, or property titles or organic vegetables, you name anything, and blockchain technology is actually covering everything, right? It combines the openness of what? Openness of the internet, because see, internet can be used everywhere and anywhere, right, in the world. Though yes, again, governments are having control over it, but yes, still there is no control over the internet facility or whatever you post on the internet. Though some governments try and block it out according to their own policies, etc., or the content is not suitable according to them, right? So that power is definitely there, but it is an open content as far as the internet is concerned, right? And it is also talking about security of cryptography. Very interesting. So what it is doing in turn is it is providing us a faster, safer way of doing business and transacting, right? So the blockchain technology basically is the one that will definitely change our lives. I've just used this particular block diagram to analyze and tell you the origin of the blockchain, the shortcomings of current transaction system, and how blockchain would basically deal with it. So during 2000s, I don't know how many of you remember that, but there was a big financial crisis that took the world, right? So in that particular crisis, if you see, uh, there were so this particular diagram, what we're trying to show is we have a party A's record, we have auditor records, we have bank records, we have party B's record, right? And they are being verified by other agencies to ensure that the transactions are okay and there is no fraud thing happening inside the transactions, etc., right? So when we are talking about this kind of a thing, what we are actually referring to is we are referring to building trust with each other, but the lack of trust led to, right here, lack of trust led to this financial crisis. What blockchain could have done if we would have used this is the part. Now this is the centralized, basically it is decentralized system. So I'm using this as a cloud structure for us, right? So party A has something, auditor has something, party B has something, bank has something, all different ledgers are there. They are maintaining their ledgers. The point is the first ledger is connected with the second part. You can see it here. The second one is connected with the third part, and each is having the same copy. When everybody is having the same copy, it will be very difficult for anybody to alter the things or to change the things or to make sure that he's changing the records in any case. So he or she has to change the record in at this point, at this point, at this point, and this point. And there is a record here also. Right. So when we are talking about a system which is digitally signed, encrypted thing, transactions are happening, all the parties are having the same replica of the same ledger. Then we are talking about a concept called as Bitcoin, which was first introduced by Satoshi Nakamoto, and his paper. This was the first paper that he cited, right? Bitcoin white paper came on 31st 10 2008, and he mentioned that Bitcoin, which is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, will be the ruler of the world in coming few years, right? So this is the white paper that he gave, and this is how the technology came into the existence, right? Now, according to the paper, the technology was highlighting digital currencies and the digital part, which was referring mainly and largely to the this symbol. I hope everybody has known this symbol now, Bitcoin, right? So this is the one in US. When you used to have a burger, they used to have they were giving it for free, right? For free to everybody, so that the word could spread that bitcoins can also be used to buy things, right? So the most successful story is the Bitcoin only as far as blockchain is concerned, but this is not the end and this is not the only story, right? So what actually Bitcoin did was it replaced cash with numbers and code. And what was the advantage? Advantage was that the system was very fast. It was internationally recognized at that point of time, right? Easy accounting, weighs nothing, it is very cheap, and problems were solved very effectively because the ledgers that were being used were same with every party. Nobody could alter this, right? So if there is no alteration, then we say that the trust component is actually very heavy as far as the transaction is concerned. Now, what are the different problems of the digital currency? The different problems are that we normally doubt that somebody would hack in and steal our money, right? So the second part is that normally people feel that digital things can be copied very easily, other than the paper, right? But if or in any case the codes are there which are very heavy in structure, it will be very difficult for us to for anybody to copy, right? In any case, you cannot use the same code to buy different things. This is the point, right? So if you see, the Angry Birds have been taken into consideration. They are all different, but using the same code. But only the one who is having who has used it the first part will be able to actually buy or spend accordingly, right? So the blockchain concept is very structural in this case, that just like downloading the attachment from an email or how to distinguish between counterfeits or ownership problems, everything is resolved in this, right? Double spendings will never be there. You will be only, if this is the code and this is given to, say, this red, right? This is the word, and somebody steals it, if Red has used it, nobody will be able to use it because it is the one who's having the key in that case, right? So fraudster detection problem becomes very easy in this particular structure. The long road to Bitcoin was talked about Satoshi Nakamoto's paper when he said that centralized banking will not cease, it will cease to exist, right? So Satoshi defined that the ledger which the banks are maintaining are basically the reason why different frauds happen in a bank, and then and how you can reduce it. You can only reduce it by this particular concept of blockchain. So what if I could turn a bank inside out, or instead of one central party who is controlling the ledger, everybody is holding this copy, and whenever there is any update, the copy gets updated. Right. This is the important part. Whenever there is any change, the copy gets updated at that point. So the strength of digital was perfect copies. The copy ledger was replacing this handheld ledger. Right? This was replaced. Right. So if you see, normally everybody is maintaining these kinds of ledgers, right? And it is very easy to manipulate these papers or pages, right? So if we are using them, then it becomes very easy for us to actually alter the things, right? Even a zero can be added here and the things can be changed very easily, right? So in digital formats, it becomes very difficult for anybody to manipulate the things, right? So when it becomes difficult, then definitely people try and find out solutions. But in blockchain technology, right now, whatever we have seen and whatever you will see right now will ensure that these things will never happen as far as the blockchain ledger structure is concerned. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to replace cash with ledger. There is no centralized system. Everything is decentralized, and there are distributed ledgers in the case, right? So when we talk about decentralized system, the governments don't prefer this. Any government will not prefer it, right? Or any organization will not prefer it because the authority wants control. And what we are saying is we are trying to make sure that the system will become decentralized. In any case, if centralized system is there, everything comes to the central part, the decision is taken, and then only things move on, right? But if there is a decentralized system established, then there will be no central power coming into picture, right? So when there is no central power, then it is very difficult for anybody to actually make sure that the things are happening according to them, right? So that is why you see that majority of the governments are opposing that. No, Bitcoin, no, it is not beneficial for us because it is not providing us the required needs, right? So this particular slide is taken from the Block Geeks. You can have a visit over that video also, and they beautifully explain how the centralized and the new network systems, decentralized and new network systems will be the hour of the day, right? So users are not anonymous in any case. Each user possesses the copy of the ledger, and they are participating in whether they are in the transaction or not, but still they are having the copy with them, right? It will require some space, but in any case, it will be very difficult for us to make changes in that case, right? So what is important is that it requires computer processing power to confirm transactions. This is called as mining. You must have heard this term several times. People say that you need to mine bitcoins, right? And or any cryptocurrency. So you have to form a chain and in that chain only you get the currency in your structure, right? So the decentralized system is getting rid of what? It is getting rid of the third party, and Satoshi Nakamoto's paper was talking about pairing of two main technology, that is proof of work, that is to solve the double spending problem, and elliptic curves, right? Which is to solve unique access to the ledger. So both these problems were solved as far as that particular paper was concerned, and that is why this is one of the most cited papers as far as blockchain literature is concerned. So nothing was newer than 2001. 2001 SHA 256 was finalized. 1999. You started from this part, right? So I'm just talking about 2001, where SHA 256 was finalized and it was being used, right? So all these problems that were coming up were being solved, and finally we got something in the form of blockchain, which was helping us decentralize the complete system, right? So what is a blockchain technology? You can visit this video also. I've placed the link. I'll share this link site with you. But in any case, what this is talking about is that Bitcoin stores all its transactions onto public database. All people feel that this is a very hidden currency, nobody can know it, but it is not true. We are having a public database called as blockchain, and which is actually ensuring or monitoring every transaction which is happening in that particular chain. How this is happening? This is how you can understand that, right? This is one of the last slides about the blockchain part. Then I'll move to how the things would be taken into the education sector after this, right? So have a look. Say for example, someone sends a request for a transaction. The requested transaction is broadcasted in point-to-point network, right? P2P network consisting of computers which are known as nodes. So these are the nodes part. Validation is done. That is, network of nodes are validating the transaction, and user status is being determined using different algorithms, right? So once the transaction is verified, the cryptocurrency context records of other information are then transferred here, right? Once the verified transaction is done, it is added to the chain. Also, a newer block, once it is added, the transaction complete message is received in your system or mobile, right? So there is no physical currency involved in this, the very first part. The chain keeps on growing and adding once the validation is done. So this is very important. The structure has to be validated, and only then a new block gets added. Now have a look over this slide. So this is the new block, and once it is verified, it is added to the blockchain concept, right? Or it is added to the chain. So this chain keeps on growing, right? You can see this. So this is how the blockchain structure would keep on growing, and everybody is doing what? It is analyzing the growth of this particular chain, right? So there are four key concepts in a blockchain part. The key concepts are: we have a distributed share ledger. It is cryptographed, or it is using cryptography. Consensus, very important, very important, I should say. Right? If there is no consensus involved, no transaction is allowed, right? And smart contracts. So IBM, Watson, or say you're talking about Wipro, you're talking about Infosys, you're talking about Amazon, you're talking about Intel, you're talking about any company, leading company these days, they are using or trying to implement the concept of blockchain in their own transactions, right? So again, I repeat four key concepts of blockchain. The very first one is called as distributed ledger. The second one is cryptography. Third one is consensus, and the fourth one is smart contracts. Try and remember this, right? So the blockchain architecture, which is very revolutionary, we would talk about using all the different technologies, right? Again, I repeat all technologies: TCP/IP, HTTP, cloud computation, big data, IoT, whatever you name, every technology is being encircled here. So Milan Swan blockchain blueprint for a new economy was the paper that you can read in January 2015, where he talked about blockchain 1.0. Bitcoin, programmable memory, blockchain 2.0, where we talked about Ethereum, right? Smart contracts, blockchain 3.0, where non-financial users were done, and these are all the applications of the blockchain part. So again, I repeat, the blockchain system, which is very structured in nature, is talking about a decentralized system. It is talking about public ledgers. I'm sorry, just remove it. Public ledgers, it is talking about verification of every individual transaction, and there is low or no transaction fees in this. Right. Again, it depends on the chain that you are working with. So decentralized system is the one which everybody is afraid of. Nobody wants a centralized system to go because their control would fade away in that case. Hence, this system is very heavily criticized in all the manners, I should say, right? So the another important part is that everyone is involved in this, whether you are doing the transaction or not, but you will still get the copy if you are the part of the chain. So the ledger holds the details of all the transactions, whatever are happening in the blockchain part, and then the things are going into the reports, right? So I would request if there is any question till here. I hope you are able to hear me clearly because I have not been able to talk to you, to the participants. So I would just request if you are able to hear me clearly, and there are questions still here because I'll be just changing after this, right? We'll be completely moving towards the education sector after this. So I would request, sir, have you allowed them to switch on their mics?
Professor, actually this Q&A, we are planning to pick up at the end, maybe 15 minutes before.
Okay, sir.
So during that time, no, before that also, I am taking their questions. No, if they have some questions, they can post it in the Q&A box.
Great.
So that I'll be reading just before we conclude the session.
That is fine, sir. That is fine. I just thought that I will just ask for the interest of the candidates, the participants who are actually listening, so that if there is any problem, we can just resolve it here. And nevertheless, we'll take it at the end part also, no problems at all. So we move ahead. The next part is talking and referring to the key business benefits that one gets out of this blockchain concept and blockchain technology over here. So if we have a look over the key benefits, what you see is time savings, cost savings, tighter security, enhanced privacy, improved auditability. Auditability means it is auditable by the any agency can audit it, right? Increased operational efficiency, right? So if a technology is offering all these things, why should not we adopt it, right? But yes, there are problems in this particular part, and the problems are well known to everybody. But yet, I'll be trying to talk about everything. So building trust with the blockchain. Now this is the part. Building trust. How do you build trust with the blockchain? So distributed and sustainable, that is secure, private, and indelible. Right. So secure, private, and indelible, transparent and auditable, consensus based and transactional, and orchestrated and flexible. So if you're getting all these things, I must say that we are getting the best out of any of the current technologies that we are using, right? So if these words are there, you'll definitely go for the part, right? Nobody would actually say that I don't want a product which is providing me all these things. Just have a look and read what I've written over here, right? It is a distributed system, right? It is very secure, it is very private, and very transparent in nature, right? And anybody can do the audit. It is consensus based. Very interesting. Consensus is also a part of this, right? So if somebody is getting all these things in one technology, why will not the things we use? So why it is called blockchain? Now again, because we are forming a chain of the blocks, right? Block 1574, 1575, 1576. These are the blocks. So the same hash code It is copied from the previous block. This hash is given here, right? This hash is given here. So if you see a chain of blocks with same common hash codes are there. So if you try and change this, you have to alter so many records together. It will be very difficult for anybody to do, right? And it is not actually possible, I should say. So what things can be done in this case is how to implement it now, right? So the implementation part of this particular technology is the blockchain user regulator, blockchain developer, a blockchain network operator. Then we have a traditional processing platform, traditional data sources, and certificate authority. Now I'll be talking about all these things in detail once I start and evaluate this concept, which talks about this particular slide talks about beyond the Bitcoin bubble. Now, when I say beyond the Bitcoin bubble, I've already used this word in the first slide, bubble. Everybody was terming blockchain or Bitcoin as a bubble, which will burst sometime, and then we will not be able to do anything after that. We lose everything, right? All the money that we are having would be lost. So when we are talking about these kind of things, we should read articles which are actually helping us see uh, the things in different fashion, right? So this particular article was printed in the New York Times magazine, and they were talking about a structure which is highlighting that how blockchain concept is beyond this bubble, right? And the concept is that it is not driven by greed, yes, right? They wrote it. Yes, it's driven by greed, but the mania for cryptocurrency cloud wind up building something much more important than wealth. Everybody wants easy money. Everybody wants money which can be basically used whenever they want, and which is acceptable, which grows. Say I tell you that you're having a 10 rupee note in your pocket, and that 10 rupee note tomorrow would become a 20 rupee note automatically, right? So the currency value is increasing each day. So uh, can you just guess someone who will not be allured by this particular thing? Everybody would be, right? All of us want a 100 rupee note to turn into 1,000 rupees without doing anything, just staying in my pocket, right? Now, if we are into that particular scenario, so Bitcoin is providing that, right? And that is why you see huge investments by people. So Steve Johnson talked about that this technology, yes, though it started with for greed part, right? Everybody was talking about that. Yes, I am having the thing, and that I will. What needs to be done is that I'm very greedy. I want these things in me, right? So when we are talking about a technology which is providing us all these things, then definitely what we can do is we can definitely go for this particular part called as the blockchain structure. Now it is beyond this. So Steven Johnson quoted this. Now, this is very important. If there is one thing we have learned from the recent history of the internet, it's that seemingly historic decisions about software technology, right? The decisions about the software part that needs to be taken effectively about software architecture that can unleash profound global forces once the technology moves into wider circulation, right? So the term that you see over here is is important, right? Now try and understand what we are talking about. Historic. The meaning of historic is that we intend for or whatever uh, basically we are likely to be understood by only a small number of people. That is true for this technology. Nobody is actually understanding what we are talking about. It is being understood by a very small number of people, and that is why this particular thing is coming into picture, right? So it is forcing people to move around in global environment into a wider circulation. So this was something which was quoted by Stephen Johnson, right? The next was the next part is now we need to answer this, that what is blockchain technology, right? A public decentralized ledger, as I already told you, that this is one of the ledgers which is decentralized and it is public in nature. And when things are public, right, we are referring to something which has a transaction number. There must be a number to this 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever the number is, date and time at which the transaction happened, who sent it, whose asset it was, and who received it. And this is a copy which is circulated to everybody, right? So this copy is there, but only the two persons who are in transaction will be able to see that, though the copy is stored with everyone. So again, it becomes very public as well as private also in structure, right? So you have an idea how this structure would work. Now, when we talk about this banking system structure of a modern database, now this is the basis of introduction into education system also. Just have a look. Users store their users are definitely storing their information in the central database, right? This is the central database. The institution, yes, it can be my institution, it can be your institution. It is having a central structure which is having managing all the things and has control over everything. So parties who want access to this database have to talk to the institution and then they get the access. Right, this is a simpler structure right now which is being utilized by every college, every institution, every way that you see the things are working, right? So control of the central database is with the institution or who is actually the control. What can go wrong in this, right? In blockchain case, people are worried that the data can be changed or hacked, data can be deleted, institution can prevent access, institution can put conditions on access, institution can use data in unauthorized manner. So if we take the very first case that data can be changed or hacked, so institutional staff can change grades after the effect, students can compromise a database that we normally see these days. You must have heard how the NEET exam cheating was happening or JEE exam problem was happening, right? So they were cheating through the online system itself, right? Data can be deleted, yes. Data can be deleted in the, and we can say very easily that the fire happened, that this was a natural disaster, but it was a man-made thing because we wanted to delete the files. Data can be lost in accidents also, where the hard disk got corrupted or some malfunctioning happened in the storage device and the data got lost or deleted. Institution can stop the access, whereas students are not given the access to the metrics that we are using in for their measurement of evaluation, right? Disputes over ownership or IPR or intellectual property rights. Institution can put conditions on access. They can put conditions on access. Institutions can charge for verifying the certificates. We are normally doing it. Everybody is doing it. Whenever something comes to our college for verification purpose, we normally ask them to pay some fee, and then only the things would be verified. But this is not the correct thing, right? Digital data only available through proprietary systems. Yes, institution can use data in unauthorized manner. Many companies are using it. They are sharing the data with third parties. Profiling of the students is shared. And each day, believe me, everyone is getting almost 10 to 15 calls, unnecessary calls for their structure, right? So when they are getting these calls, who do you think wants these unnecessary calls? Nobody. But everybody is getting it, right? Now, if all these things were to be run by this concept of blockchain, then I write it over here. Nothing of this sort would happen. right? Nobody can hack it because this is a very secure system. If you have to delete something, you have to delete thousands of copies together. Nobody can prevent access because I told you it is a public scenario, right? The things are available in public list. Institution can put conditions on access. There is no institution involved. There is no control involved. No central authority. Certificates are open. I'll show you a very encrypted certificate in one of the last slides, right? How blockchain is using those certificates. Institution can use data in unauthorized manner. Nobody can use it because institutions again have been omitted here. And that is why I again tell you the governments are behaving in such a fashion. They are not ready to provide free access or open access to everybody, right? Now have a look over this particular slide where we are talking about removing a central authority. Uh, Blockchain is eliminating these problems. We are removing the central authority. How we are doing it? Each node stores the complete copy of this database. I've already told you several times in this lecture itself. Each user has to approve each entry. The entries are approved. Only if it is approved, the version with most copies, true version in that case, is assumed and is then supplied to everybody. Right? The copies are maintained there. This is the point. The social value proposition of blockchain. Now, this is very important. Where again, I'm moving towards the education part. Just have a look. Right? Self sovereignty and identity. The very first was the social value proposition of blockchain. Now, if you see the social value proposition or component is very high. How it is high? Because what we are doing is we are basically talking about how to link people together and to ensure that the components that are joined together. Now this is the blockchain itself, right? So I'm using this chain for the blockchain because we are linked with each other. The social responsibility comes with everybody. Now this is the cross-sectional part which is coming with each person. So he or she has to say yes or no. So one or the other is a party of these things, right? Self-sovereignty and identity. Now this is the second part. Self-sovereignty and identity, yes, you are being governed by yourself only. Nobody is an authority over you, and you have your own identity. You can do things according to how you want, not according to some rules which are being laid down by some people who are not even concerned by that, right? So the next part is the trust. So blockchain is based on trust only, right? Again, I repeat, it is based on trust. So if you see, even if this thing is removed, then the trust is broken, right? And the things can not be done in this case, right? So when we are talking about the trust part, we are talking about that the chain is so long that it is very difficult for anybody to break it down or to make any unnecessary, unwanted changes in that particular aspect, right? The next important part of this particular technology is transparency and prudence. I gave you all these points, right? It's very transparent in nature. Anybody, because this is public in public domain, right? So when we are talking about something which is in public domain, we all normally say that it is very transparent. Everybody can see. So say our government decided that we will be buying something from a particular country, and we will be buying this because of the following things, and they put the records on their website. Everybody can see this, right? Or provenance means the place of origin or the earliest known history of that particular thing. If those things are known to anybody, I don't think there will be any problem in that case, right? Immutability. Now, this is very interesting concept. Now, blockchain is basically helping in immutability, right? Immutability means something which is unchangeable, which cannot be changed. if you see the concept, it talks about that the object-oriented or functional programming, as we are referring to these days, and is an immutable object, right? That we cannot change the things straight away, right? So something whose state cannot be modified, right? Once we have created it, the state will not be modified, and then that is why this particular technology falls under the category of immutability, right? And then we have the word called as uh, disintermediation, right? So there is no intermediation happening, as I told you. Disintermediation means reduction in the use of parties, producers and consumers. Say, for example, you're seeing an ad these days. I'll just mention that over here because it is coming. I think I've just written the right spelling. Miso, right? Now, if you see that particular ad, it is basically talking about providing access of the things directly from the manufacturer to you. So they are reducing what? They are reducing the intermediate people in between, right? And when that is reduced, you have the direct, you have the straight road. You don't have to travel like this, right? So how blockchain is starting to impact education now, this is the major part of what we have to see as far as this slide is concerned. Education sector. Now, if we see our country, we just launched the new education policy very shortly. We are even using it, but it is yet to be fully implemented, right? But we are still are discussing about those things, and we how things can be very effectively commanded and controlled in the case of blockchain in this education sector. This is what we need to look around, right? Now, this particular slide talks about the same thing. That same diagram I've used, but I've just mentioned it in the education sector now. So current production applications are involving notarization of certificates. Very, very important. For any degree, any structure, notarization of certificates using the blockchain. How it is done? We have an issuer. Issuer is issuing a certificate which is based on hash algorithm having some codes. We have a private key for that. We have a digitally signed certificate generated once that key is embedded inside it and it is given to the recipient. The hash code of that certificate is stored on a blockchain concept. So anybody can see that this particular certificate was issued. Now the details from the inside the certificates cannot be issued until and unless the person allows for that, right? But yes, there is a hash code with the certificate which is stored in a blockchain also. Now, just have a look at this particular chaining concept, which is issuing a certificate. Issuer issued it, certificate was here, hash algorithm was incorporated, a code was generated, a key was generated, everything was mingled in this particular format of digitally signed certificate and was given to you. By this code, you will be recognized everywhere, right? The information will be displayed. This is how it would look like. This is the digitally signed certificate that we will be getting 2 years after. We are still not getting it, right? The presentation part, the content part, whatever is written inside it, and the receipt part, right? We have a signed one-way hash code over here. This is the receipt of the blockchain, which is basically stored in the blockchain also. And these are different layers in the production of this particular certificate. So this is an intelligent certificate in itself because you have to just scan the code and everything written on the certificate will be available to the party who is having the key, right? So because there are different aspects to this, we have a public ID key which can be, because this is a public, everybody can see that and you can just verify it. No change can be made. no alteration can be done in this case. Nothing of the sort that somebody has downloaded this and then changed this and used it, because the key is identical. It is unique, right? Unique key has been generated, and the person who is having it will be able to have some more rights, but because it is in public domain, right? So in this particular case, when the certificate is in public domain, sir, I hope you're able to hear my voice.
Yes, Professor. Yes, Professor. You're audible.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Right. So this particular certificate is basically the one that we will be actually getting in few years from now, and you will all see that this kind of a thing is very common with us in next coming years. The European Union has started it. That is why I'm just taking the example of that, right? So what you will see is you'll see all the European universities over there. The HMM Digital Marketing Institute, Kalpan University, the Hot Suit, IF, right, Rosetta Stone, and others. So they are making sure that we automate and grow the certification or training programs, right? So everything is being done in based on this particular technology, right? So the even the accreditation of institutes, right, is being done through blockchain. So everybody understands that if you are taking admission to this institute and you put the public the name of that particular institute in public domain, you get all the information. The next important part, again, as far as education sector is concerned, we have a Bitcoin magazine. You can read this also online, available. So the blockchain article mentioned by Julio Prisco in January 25, 2018. Pilot project verifies academic credentials on the Bitcoin blockchain. Right? We have been seeing this thing several times now. So they had launched a pilot project, the UCL Center for Blockchain Technology, that is University College of London, right? So they launched it as a pilot project for verification of credentials for the MSc final year graduate students, and they did what? The risk management was done using the blockchain concept, and the things were verified used on the blockchain part by doing what? Verified qualification on their CV through a QR based code. You normally get this. We're getting this in our Paytm, we are getting this in our Google Pay, Phone Pay, whatever you're using, right? It is a unique code being generated by the service providers for you only. Nobody else can use it. Yes, the information is again available to everybody. You can just scan it, and the information required comes over, right? So the blockchain and Bitcoin concept basically combined together to provide tamper-proof, valuable information very easily to the employers or to whatever agencies the person wants, right? So this was the very first project that was launched. Again, University College of London took the lead to start with this particular scenario, right? Now in this case, if you see, this is slide by TrueRec by SAP. So taking the first step towards trusted digital you. This is the code, this is the line that they normally refer, right? You can download this. So TrueRec. TrueRec is applying blockchain technology to offer trusted digital credentials. Right, this is one of the apps available on the Play Store. You can also download it, and it is providing you access to the digital world by increasingly providing authenticity of digital copies to the users of that. Right, so there are certificates you can see. red, blue, green, different types of certificates. Whatever category you belong to or register to, the information will be displayed to you, right? Nobody else can see it. So rather than physically verifying the documents, this particular app is verifying the things digitally for you, right? And it is very popular these days, right? So in online system, this became much more easier for everybody to verify the things. So blockchain is here now. EU has said it, right? At EU national state level, they said that blockchain is here to stay. We are not moving anywhere around this, right? So Malta, one of the states of the province in the Commonwealth Center for Connected Learning, was the first nation to deploy blockchain in education pilots. So because we are talking about blockchain in education sector, so that is why this news becomes very important to us. Malta was the first nation state, right? They adopted this for education pilot projects. The pilots at Malta College for Arts, Science and Technology, Institute of Tourism Studies, National Commission for Further and Higher Education, and all state schools adopted this blockchain concept. In 17th to 18th May 2018, the conference on blockchain in education and connected learning was organized by this. They are organizing another conference. They organized in 2019. They are organizing another one, right? So they are taking a lead as far as the EU nation state level is concerned. And if you see the blockchain certificates that they have used, is this kind of a certificate, right? So this is the copy. Again, this is very easily available. Institute of Tourism Studies, Malta, certifies that person has successfully completed foundation this, level 2, merit, which year, signed copies, right? Verify. Everything is mentioned here. It is just to verify the things. And when the code is generated, see here it is verified. And now this is issued to the student. Once it is issued, they can download or share it, right? So once things are verified, this is how it would come out to be. See, BlockCerts was talking about ITS Foundation. Nicole was the name, right? You can see this now, right? Transaction ID is this, institution name, this. The information is now available publicly. Now that certificate is not available publicly. Information is available, and the things can be verified, right? So if you have the code, the key, you will be able to check the information from this particular pixel. How might blockchain disrupt education? Now this is the point. We're talking about improving. I'm talking about this some negative aspects that people would feel. So we need to discuss that also. Where to apply blockchain is very important to understand. Right? Issue and recognition of credentials, management of intellectual property rights, payments and smart contracts, self-sovereign identity management, right? These are the places where the blockchain concept needs to be implemented or can be easily implemented. Issue and recognition of credentials. Now, this is the very first part. So when we are talking about issue and credentials, issue and recognition of credentials, we are talking about the credentials are of the student and how to recognize this, right? The second important part is management of IPR or intellectual property rights of the things. Then payments and smart contracts come into picture. Self-sovereign identity, I just introduced this point to you earlier also, that we are self-sovereign identity and a management structure. So scenario, what is a scenario? Now I'm using this issues and recognition of credentials, right? Issues and recognitions of credentials. Try and have a look over this slide. Blockchain for ECTS, that is governance, architecture, and use cases. Governance talks about group of universities which are forming a private blockchain network. addition of new members and rules of the network which are decided by universities by consensus. Architecture means each credit awarded by universities is recorded as transaction. Very interesting. Earlier it was in the Bitcoin part that we were saying that a transaction happens and it is recorded. Each credit given to a student is now recorded as a transaction and is recorded on the chain. The record of credit awarded is now public, immutable, and anonymized. Very interesting. The student can prove he or she is the owner of the specific ECTS by using his private key. Right? And this could be linked to the ESCO part. So the architecture is talking about the structure, how blockchain becomes very easy for us. ECTS, basically, those who are not knowing, I just forgot to talk about that. It is European Credit Transfer. I don't know why it is not writing very clearly. Transfer and Accumulation System. Right? European Credit Transfer and Accumulation System. ECTS. They are using it for credit transfer. So if you want to take admission anywhere else, the ECTS is the one. And what is ESCO? ESCO stands for Energy Service Company, right? So Energy Service Company, Energy Service Company. Now this is the one which is taking care of all these things and then recording the things for, right? So use cases is a student can spend his ECTS, again I repeat, European Credit Transfer and Accumulation System, with an institution to create qualification. Transfer of the credit becomes merely spending of ECTS transfer from two different institutions. Like for example, I tell you, if someone studying in UIT KUK wants to study in your college, is it possible? Though we are running the same course, we are having the same syllabi, we are having the same structural thing. But will it be possible for that student to transfer his credits to your college? Because we are not into agreement, we are not into changing structure, it is not possible. So an employer or other university can verify the student records by merely by doing what? Merely by verifying his ECTS, that's it. Nothing else has to be done against the blockchain part and the things will be verified. So how easy it becomes as far as the recognition of credentials are concerned. I hope you have followed it. Right, so this University of Maribor is using this. So you can have a look over that. Welcome to the EduCTX. EduCTX is efficient, simplified, ubiquitous solution for a student's credit assignment. So motivation, challenges, purpose, objectives, focus, current state, you can all read these things. I've already explained the things to you. The second scenario is management of intellectual property. So when we talk about management of intellectual property, again, these three comes into picture: governance, architecture, use case. So blockchain for educational resources, talking about management of intellectual property. So governance means a group of open education repositories form a private blockchain network. Addition of new members and the rules by which the network operates are decided by the repositories by consensus, very important. Right. Architecture is each resource added to the repository results in reward of a token to the author. You must have seen this. The MLM, the multi-level marketing system, was somewhere talking about this, right? Each time that resource is reused, cited, it results in reward of an additional token or part tokens depending on extent of reuse. So the record of reuse is now public and immutable. Again, it is immutable and it is public, right? So use cases talks about the token system would allow for creators to be compensated, right? Compensated for what? Compensated for sharing their resources in proportion or in the amount of usage those who are using it, right? So some such compensations can be in the form of financial compensations, revenue acquired by repositories, or compensation in terms of credits or academic prestige or other factors, right? Whatever are taken into use, right? You are also part of many of these things. You are part of Google Scholar, you are part of ResearchGate, you are part of Scopus IDs, Elsewhere Association, right? All are trying to transfer the code. They're giving a unique code which is public in nature, ORCID ID, right? They're giving a unique code recognized by everybody. And then what happens? If anything is added to your profile, it gets added to all the platforms together. And everybody is able to see it, right? They're able to acknowledge that also. So the next important part is the online encyclopedia reinvented for the modern age. Right now, what is the online encyclopedia? Everything is available here. For example, you want to study Tesla. The things are available. You can read it. They are in public domain. But what they are doing internally is with them only. So New York Times, Forbes, HuffPosting, T&W, Fast Company, you name anything, everything is available right. You can become an editor, you can become whatever you want, right? The next important part is payments and smart contracts. By the way, the example for this was Everypedia, right? So you see encyclopedia, I've written Everypedia over here. You can search it on the Google, it will come out to be Everypedia. It will provide you the access to everything, right? So the next scenario is blockchain for vouchers, that is payments and smart contracts. So we are talking about payments and smart contracts here. A set of founders of education, that is governments, regional authorities and companies, decide to use blockchain to fund education via voucher system. Very important. No scholarship, nothing. We are funding education system by a voucher system, right? Educational institutions would provide and agree to paid via the blockchain. You will also get your salaries through blockchain sometime from now, right? So each token on the blockchain would be pegged into real world currency. Yes, it has to be done because it is payment, right? Funding conditions would be written immutably into the chain as the smart contracts, and token would be given to students who could spend them at certain education institutions, right? And similarly, tokens would be then released when certain conditions are met. So what is the use case in this case? The token or contract system would allow what? It would allow the funding system to be created. And there will be no administrative overhead for this, right? Once contracts are created, the funding would be allocated, right? And if it is released and be unchangeable, giving the student guarantee, or it can be used to improve the voucher-based public-private system, education system, right? So crowd sale ended here. Example is bit degree. Now, this is the example over here, the bit degree part, right? The crowd sale ended. Bit degree is a platform which is it is a platform which is providing you these things. Crowd sale ended. Thank you for participating. Let's revolutionize education together, right? So join the bit degree now. You can even see this on Google also. It is related with Telegram and Twitter also. Payments and smart contracts is talking about this kind of a stuff, right? And it is different than Bitcoin. Again, I repeat, Bitcoin is way different than this. The last important scenario is sovereign or self-sovereign identity and management. As I told you that there is no central authority in this case, so you are sovereign enough to manage your own resources. So governance means a data handler or typically a large educational institution, such as a university like you people are into, right? It will create identity management system, right? For what? For its use only, for its units or its subsidiaries, right? And, what is the architecture? Student who need to identify their eligibility for services or for their admission to the university can send the documents proving their eligibility in the admission office. These days you must have seen there are so many advertisements for PhD and postdocs coming, where there is, when you register, they ask you to put certain information. You pre-qualify the test, then only you are able to submit the form. Otherwise, you are not even allowed to submit the form in that case. Right. So once admission office verifies the eligibility, it will issue the certificate using the blockchain itself, tied with biometric private key. Now, this is an important structure. Biometrics are also incorporated in this, right? Admission office will then delete the data provided by the student. Only keeping what? Only keeping the hash. So the hash code will contain everything for this. So the record again is public, it is immutable, and student can keep control of their data. Nobody will be able to use it because all the office is having is the hash code, nothing else. They cannot redistribute it, right? So institutions would be able to do what? They would be able to generate, internally identify the student eligibility. Easy process. Without even storing the data on their system, overloading them unnecessarily, right? So this can reduce what? This can reduce the compliance cost, the data protection systems, right? And additionally, it will simplify the network architecture, reduce footprint, reduce sovereignty, or any breach in the network. Right? So how easy it would become. Civic secure identity system. So I'm trying to give you example with everything. So we have a civic secure identity system named as Civic. You can see this also, right? I'm not showing you any videos over here, we are talking about the issues and recognitions of credentials. So we are giving, this particular site is giving business and individuals the tools to control and protect identity. The last important part in this case is the openness dilemma. Now, what is the openness dilemma? We should say that anybody can say that everything is in public domain now. So, if everything is in public domain, then how we can, or what we can do? I hope my voice is coming, sir.
Yes, Professor, you are audible.
Right, sir. Right, sir. So I've been talking around now for last 1.5 hours without knowing even if these students are actually understanding or not. Very difficult scenario, sir. But yes, if we are talking about on these open chains, yes, this is the new coming thing that would happen. So yes, I'll just use the pen again. Actors in blockchain do not always have aligned interests. Very interesting statement, right? We have an open blockchain, we have a closed blockchain. Danger and opportunity of hybrid chains are also there. Open blockchain is in public interest, closed blockchain is in private interest. Many governments are rooting for this. Every organization which is basically trying to free things is rooting for this particular aspect. Many organizations want the amalgamation of both the things, but yes, open blockchains are much more suited to all the problems that we have just discussed, especially in the case of education. I'm giving you an example over here. Sony developed system for authentication, sharing, and rights management using blockchain technology. I don't know how many of you have read this. The Sony global education system. I don't know even anybody knew about this, but yes, Sony Global Education is making use of blockchain technology, which is unleashing a new patent application using the blockchain as a part of their educational system. So very interesting. Sony in education, right? I don't know how many of us knew that. So they are having an educational platform which is based on blockchain technology itself, right? So again, as I told you, what all it would comprise of. I'll just use this. Proof of existence, self-sovereignty and identity, the graph base or the Provix, right? So proof of existence means the Stampery, Tarian, block notary, learning machine, block certs, right? You post applications involve transactions between large number of people. It is a completely decentralized system and a total market cap of only 0.5 trillion dollars. But yes, this is a new concept and it will soon overpower this. Soon overpower. Right? So the standards dilemma is very interestingly choreographed by this image itself. Fragmentation brings great risk. I don't know how many of you use this. Have you used this structure? With a single USB connection into the power cable or the charger and many connectivity things. All the cables are there. We fragmented the things and we are bringing great risk to the system. Right? So fragmentation brings great risks. I don't know how many of you agree with this. These are some questions that we will right now discuss after this. Scam report, fake ICO summit, including many scams, right? Uh, the point is standards and regulation can hinder innovation, right? So this is an important part, very important. We must understand this. Standards and regulations, they can hinder innovation. When we are still discovering what? When we are still discovering the potential of the technology. So this is the last part as far as I am concerned. I'll show you all these things, a three-pronged approach used by Dutch university. Right. The very first part is regulate the blockchain policy. Sorry. Regulate the blockchain policy to limit what? To limit the proliferation of scam solutions without losing the social value. Standardize the educational ledgers to ensure common format of for exchange and storage of data. Stimulate the applications with a secure and standardized framework, right? So this is the three-pronged approach that every system should basically follow or use. So the Dutch blockchain coalition is the one that is these days very popular for the knowledge library part. The Dutch blockchain coalition is basically talking about potential source of trust, prosperity, and security for the society and businesses, right? So they are trying to stimulate large-scale deployment of blockchain technology in Netherlands. So when I talk about Dutch, we're talking about Netherlands, where we are talking about digital identity, conditions, human capital, e-magazine, knowledge library, whatever you talk about. Right? So we have a complete platform over here. So key conclusions and recommendations are if we are going to achieve the social value propositions of blockchain, we need what? I should have asked this to you, but again, uh, I'm trying to answer them. We need an open ecosystem that is direct all to take action towards open blockchain, recipient ownership, vendor independence, and decentralized verification. Commonly agreed technical standards we need. Yes, we need all the technical standards which are common. So we should create standards for all educational credentials. WTO is trying to establish this. ESCO, I've already given you. It works on qualifications, should be extended to all educational credentials, and these standards in turn made blockchain available. Right? Stakeholder-led approach, yes, we should always try and follow this, empower the stakeholders. Funding these stakeholders, leading to blockchain pilots with blockchain pilots like Erasmus Plus, mainstreaming open standards, enabling desirable futures, not solely market-based. And the important part is coordination of actors. That is setting up the coordination for advisory board for the blockchain in education, or the things that are composed of representatives of national governments, educational stakeholders, or EU blockchain advisory group like I just showed you, right? And the forum focuses on coordination of efforts versus the information output. Everything can be done. Uh, Also, an informed public, very interesting, very important. We have been doing this these days. Whenever you call, the first message that you get is about Corona. We are informing public, making them aware. So fund an online curriculum on blockchain in education system. To understand the differences between cryptocurrencies and blockchains, understand risk associated with cryptocurrencies, evaluate the blockchain implications in terms of social good, and understand the principle of self-sovereignty. Right. So this is the last slide as far as I'm concerned. I don't know, I finished a little earlier, but I thought that we'll be asking questions in between also. But nevertheless, John Perry Barlow, internet pioneer, he died in 2018. So from 1947 to 2018, you should read this article in the Electronic Frontier Foundation, John Perry Barlow, right? So he was the internet pioneer and he was advocating the usage of blockchain, which is basically he talked about this one. So I've just given a gist of his talk. Blockchain might be the last best chance to save the open web. Very, very important. So it might be the last best chance to save the open web community. Right. So now I've already raised my hand for you people. So I would request sir to just make sure that whatever questions are there, sir, because this was a very new and upcoming topic. So I feel that people who are listening would be trying to ask questions from me. So I'm open to those things because I'll keep this hand up only right now.
Professor,
Sir,
Professor,
yes, sir.
we have few questions. I'll read out those questions.
Yes, sir. We can take it one by one. No problem, sir.
Sir, how to recognize and authenticate about the certificates issued by any education sector?
Right. So I think Dr. M.
Kannabran, Dr. M.
Kannabiran.
Kannabran.
Kannabiran, right. Thank you, Doctor, for asking this question. I'm unable to spell it clearly, but kindly excuse me for that. Now, the point is, this is a very interesting question. I have tried to answer that also in the slide itself. Now, if you see, I'll just take back to you, you to the system itself, right? So just let me go back. Now have a look at this particular slide and have a look at the three things: presentation, content, and receipt, and this one-way hash signed key. Now this is just like the QR code that you get while you are using the Paytm or the Google Pay or whatever it is. You show it to somebody or you scan it for a particular shop, and the required information is displayed, only the required information, nothing else. Though there are much more things available, right? So in education sector, again I repeat, to authenticate these certificates, the key is very, very important. So that hash key would actually authenticate that whether this certificate has been issued by the correct agency or not. And when the yes would come, then only the student who is trying to seek admission or trying to seek any job or anything else will be given a go. Sir, are you able to hear me? I think I lost my connection.
Yes, Professor, kindly go ahead.
Yes, yes, yes. So as I showed that particular slide, I mean, the screen is not visible right now. Now, if you see, I'll share my screen again. If you see the certificate again, the security stages are there, and the public key or the hash key, there's a difference in the two, right? So the public key is the one that will be there for verification purpose, and the hash key will be there for the student. So it can he or she will provide the public key to verify, to get the things verified. So there will be a platform, again a blockchain platform, which will help you in verification of these things. I hope I've answered, sir. Sir, you can allow them to switch on their mics. Is it possible?
Yeah, mic control, till our control room people.
Okay, no problem, sir. If it is not possible, I'll just try and answer them. It would have been good to hear them.
Okay. Professor, another question.
Yes, yes, sir. So I'm reading it, sir, in the chat box only, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is there in the question and answer box.
So Dr. Yadu is saying, sir, as we are having very wide sector, I request you to please suggest at which level of education blockchain technology is viable. Sir, see, again I repeat, issuing of degree certification is very easy or is very common process to all the colleges. So in that case, you can implement it very easily. So you are even seeing those smart degrees coming into picture. The WTO agreement talks about it. They are talking about ensuring that a proper degree, which is mandatory for admission purpose or anywhere else, a code is there which can be just scanned, and then the entire information of that particular candidate is available to ensure that he or she is possessing a valid document or not, right? So in that case, you can start with that. And then you can implement it in credit giving or in marks distribution or even in evaluation sector, right? So you can just keep on adding the things. So that is why this is called as blockchain. We'll keep on adding, right? How could the implementation of blockchain be done in education sector if at all we need to go? I just told you, I showed you several examples, sir. In funding of the institution, in scholarship, in issuing of degree certificates, in transferring of credits, right? There are so many things can be done. What assessment of education sector need to be undertaken in order to implement blockchain technology? What assessment of education information system need to be undertaken in order to implement blockchain technology? Assessment of education sector is already being done, sir. At each point, this is the only sector which is assessed, right? Other than that, normally in any industry or in anywhere, you see the balance sheet and that's it. But in education sector, the class performance, the attendance, the things, everything is assessed, right? And then the examination part, and then the co-curricular activities, and then the other things, right? So there are so many aspects. So assessment of education information system, I don't know. You can add all the factors there, and you can link them together with the performance of the student. So that will help predict the things easily and analyze what kind of students you are having for suitability for which job it is there, right? So many companies are doing it also. They take the test free of cost, and then they let you know that this particular student is good for say for a particular company in IT sector. Because he or she is good in communication skills, he's good for the call center job, or he's good for something else, right? So they're providing you inputs based on AI machine learning only. Anand Kumarji is asking something similar to that. Brief us on how AI and machine learning and blockchain can be used. Sir, I just tried to answer that only. AI and machine learning tools are coming very effectively, being used and monitored by different agencies these days. Byju's, Akash, or these are some good names, right? But there are many more who are predicting that for what purpose the student is good for, right? And when they predict, then they give you the performance structure also, that you ask him to do this. So he can be a very good MBA, he can be a very good manager, he can be a very good engineer, or he can be a very good orator, right? So these are the things that AI and machine learning bring to blockchain concept. But again, that openness should be there. We are ready to share the information with everybody, right? Dr. Yadu has written something else. I'll just read it. I mean to ask what kind of technologies to be used. Technologies to be used in compatible to blockchain technology in education sector. Sir, technology wise, we are already using the best technologies that are there, right? So I don't think there is much need to change the technology part. The only thing that we need to be, because we are all already linked with each other to the internet. So this is the main part. Now, if you are thinking about technology in the case that you need to develop I showed you several technologies, right? I showed you an app. I showed you some web engines. I showed you some universities which are linking themselves together to exchange the student information, right? So microcomputing database, again I repeat, database is a centralized system. We are moving out of that. Though we are still keeping a centralized record, but there is no centralized control. Record is there, control is not there. Data processing, telecommunications, sir, any sector you talk about, the technology part is already there. The only thing is how you can introduce the blockchain concept to that. That is, make the system decentralized. So when you're talking about decentralization of system, you yourself have changed the technology from networking with a centralized system to a decentralized network system. I showed you that also, right? So I think I've answered it, sir. If you can acknowledge, I can move to the next question.
Professor, can I read the next question?
Yes, sir. I was just waiting for the answer from Dr. Yadu.
Okay.
If I have tried to answer that, his query has been answered.
Yeah, I guess already acknowledged. Yes, sir, I understood.
Okay. That's great. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Yadu, for acknowledging the things. If there is still anything, I'll just share my information with you. We can definitely have a discussion over it. All right. So, Iram Ada Khan. Iram, I'll just read the question. Sir, what are the challenges of applying blockchain in education sector? I told you there are so many. I gave you. Right, Yaduji. Thank you very much for this. Iram, I gave you the challenges. Now, again, if you want, I can just go through them. The complete slide was how might blockchain disrupt education? So these are the challenges: issues and recognitions, management of IPR, payment and smart contract, self-sovereignty and identity management. These are challenges. So how do you actually bring about changes in these? Right. So how do you bring different universities together? How do you manage the IPR or the intellectual property rights for that? And how do you use a smart payment system which is common to everybody? And you're not using the currency, you're using a cryptocurrency for that. I hope you got that. Iram Ada Khanji. Anandji, thank you very much. Sir, I mean, while implementing, see again, you have to think about, say, for example, the challenge that you're talking about is related to recognition of credentials. Mm, okay, Anita ji, I'll just answer Iram's question and then I'll answer your also. Uh, see, Iram, what I'm trying to tell you is that, for example, you take recognition of credentials into consideration, right? So all the universities who are related with each other uh, should recognize the credentials of each other, right? And if they are not recognizing the credentials of each other, then the blockchain concept fails. Right. So while you are forming a blockchain, you have to have an agreement that you will be recognizing the credentials uh, earned by the student in any case from any university. Right. So once you do that, then you will be able to implement it successfully. So you have to identify what concern you are talking about. So there are many challenges I have told you. One of them is recognition of credentials. Another one is managing of intellectual property rights. So if we're talking about intellectual property rights in that case, so intellectual property rights may provide different aspects to different universities. But when you try and agree to form a chain, then you should have a policy which should be agreeable to everybody, and then you will be able to implement it, right? So you have to formulate the rules, but those rules are common to everybody and are publicly available. So anybody can read that and anybody can use it and suggest things, right? It is not that in an open, in a closed room meeting, we decide that yes, for this particular candidate we have to do this, and for that candidate we will be doing this. That is not the case. If the conditions are there, then everyone gets the equal treatment, right? I think, Iramji, I tried to answer that. If there is still a doubt, okay, right. Thank you very much. Thank you for acknowledging. Anita, ma'am has asked something. Anita, ji, still blockchain has storage limitation. Oh, I gave that answer, ma'am. If you have seen, now again see, what I told you was, I'll give you a very simple example. While a student is registering his or her information, say for seeking admission in your university, right? So what the student had to do was, it had to fill the complete details and load the documents, and then your system got overloaded because of this. Many of the sites are getting overloaded. The NEET site, the GATE site, the UGC site, right? So everybody is loading information. Now they've capped the limit that the size should be this, that should be this. Now, if degree was issued using the concept of blockchain, then see what would happen. You didn't require anything else but a page where only the hash key should be entered, and the entire information would be then available to the person who is actually looking after the admission process. So in that case, what I've done, I have reduced the overburden on the system. Right, Anita ji? It would have been very easy. I'm not loading the degrees. I'm not loading all the information there. I'm just loading the hash key. Okay. Anita, thank you very much. Thank you. So I think you've all acknowledged the questions that were there. Ankurji, thank you very much for acknowledging the session. I request to suggest some open source courses for blockchain. Yes, Dutch blockchain, I told you. EU, you can visit the EU website, right? They have a forum. They have a complete forum for that. So the EU forum is basically the one that provides many open source courses that are available there, right? And you can visit that. Ankurji, I hope, yes, Anita, I'll definitely share the PPT. Don't worry about that. I'll definitely share this PPT with you. No problems. I'll share it with Dr. Sen Gurwat, and I think he'll forward it, right? Right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Sen, you can forward the PPT to everybody.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Right, right, right. Ankurji, I can mail you furthermore. In my PPT, there are more open source courses being referred to, so you can definitely see that, right? Yeah, Chitra ji, thank you very much. Thank you for acknowledging. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to everybody.
Professor, one last question
Yes, sir.
from my side. As per the new education policy 2020,
Yes, sir.
students are allowed to take up interdisciplinary courses, and they're also allowed to get no credit transfer from one institution to another institution. Okay, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm able to hear you. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, maybe considering just for example a 3 years course, no, a student A takes after 1 year, he or she want to
Please.
get
He takes
transfer
a
her
certificate. Yes, sir.
to the next institution B,
Right.
and after some time, no, maybe another institution C.
Mhm.
So all these things, no, the credit transfer, everything is going to get transfer.
Yes, sir.
But final degree, who is going to give?
Right, sir. So, interestingly, see, sir, in your question only there was the answer. Now, if I leave the institute after 1 year, I've already got the certificate, sir, from that part. Right, sir. So, on the
Yeah,
basis of that, on the basis of that certificate, I take another admission to the next university, and I complete 2 years and get a diploma out of that. So, I've got the diploma from the last institute, right? So, the
okay.
last institute where you complete a particular course would provide you the information. Now, say after 3 years, I try to take admission in the fourth year of some other university for now a BTech degree course, right? So both those certificate and diploma would still stand, but the credits of the earlier courses will also be taken into consideration. Now this is a very hefty system, sir. If you analyze, if the same thing could have been done very easily with blockchain concept. So what the system could have done in this case is that they could have issued a hash code in the very beginning itself to the student. Right. Now that hash code is the common code to that particular individual only, and he can shift from one field to another, or he can shift from one university to the other university. And that code would remain common. And in that case, this certificate may be issued by any university because they are all in agreement with each other, but the hash code will still remain the common part. In this case that you have asked, sir, in NEP, the registration number of the student will keep on changing each time. That is a problem.
Because each institution, no, they may be having a different grading system.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So one institution follow maybe a
So
4
that is,
points.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is what I was trying to say. So blockchain concept becomes when you come into agreement with each other, then you follow the same system everywhere.
So in a way, new education policy, particularly the assessment side, the blockchain technology is going to play a very big role.
Sir, if they implement it, it will be a boon to. Or see, I've given you an example of EU association. They never thought about the education policy in that case, but they were trying to formulate a forum where things can be justified. Say because I'm moving from Germany to Austria, so I have to shift over from one country to the other country in that case, though I am belonging to European Union, right? So they formulated a common system that even if you shift from one country to other country in any university and you have a hash code available with you, your recognition will be done automatically. Nothing has to be done in that case.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for
Right.
your. I hope there are any questions. Let me see. Any
I'm just looking into the chat box, so there are many more thank you messages and acknowledgement messages. Thank you, everyone. Saurabh ji, Shweta ji, Haripriya, Divesh, Varalakshmi, everybody. Thank you very much, Archana ji. Thanks a lot. I hope that I was of some use to all of you. And these 2 hours that we spent together, I still hope that you will be able to write some good papers or read the literature and go through this concept of blockchain and implement it or use it in your research. That's it. That's the aim.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. On behalf of FDP organizing team at Acharya Bangalore B School and the participants, I extend my heartfelt thanks to you. Thank you so much for your informative session on blockchain technology in education sector. We are very fortunate to listen to you once again on Friday at 11:45 a.m. on blockchain technology and Hyperledger Fabric. So, dear participants, Dr. Nikhil Saab is going to take another session on Friday on 24th at 11:45 am. Those who are interested, maybe can go through to get more inputs and more interactions with the professor. Thank you, one and all. So we'll call day one with this. And tomorrow morning at 9:30, we are going to join. The session will be taken by Professor Chandrapriya from Anna University, Chennai. She is going to talk on blockchain technology in healthcare industry. Thank you, one and all. Happy
Thank you very
evening.
much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sen, for inviting me. Thanks a lot. And thanks to all the participants. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, some of you are looking for PPT.